So I'm having problems with my door locks. Probably won't do it on, there we go. Did you hear how it double locked? So that time it triple locked. Sometimes if I roll my windows, see, it's trying to lock there. Silly stuff like even windshield wipers. See, sometimes the horn. So I'm gonna see if water got into this switch. I'm gonna unplug it. So we're just gonna pull the panel off. I'm not sure. Yeah, so basically just pulls right off. And they have a connector down here. And I'm just gonna unplug it and see if I can replicate the issues. So there's a tab on the bottom. I might need a second hand to do this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wiggle it. So it's unplugged. I don't see any evidence of moisture. The pins all look good. So let's see if it will auto lock with that all unplugged. So it's still doing it. And there's sometimes a weird screaming from under the dash. I don't know if that's related. Okay, so right now it doesn't want to act up. But we know that it's probably not this switch, because it doesn't seem to, with it unplugged, it doesn't seem to make it better. So let's see if we can. There we go, I got a double lock out of it that time. Window switch is still unlocked, or unplugged. Window switch is still unplugged, and I got a double hit there. It kind of seems like the more loads that are on it, it's like it doesn't seem to like doing it much when it's sitting there. I can get it. I have gotten it to do it before, just sitting still. It's really strange though. I really feel like it must be some wires touching or something, because it seems to really like it when I'm driving. I'm gonna try unplugging the door latch and see what that does for me. So I've unplugged the door latch and I don't see anything immediately weird in there either. plug in. Oh, it immediately tried to lock. And it's still doing it. So when I pull that, it tries to auto lock. And just to double check it. So I'm gonna unplug it again, unplugged again. So none of these. Haven't changed any position, so just messing with the windows. Couldn't get it to do it. Plug in the door lock. Immediately tries to lock, and then it's doing it again. So I'm gonna go back to my wiring diagrams and see what that means. So it's still doing it. Got the key in the door outside. So, from what I've found, just about all the lock controls go to the same connector on the under dash relay center. So they all go to connector E down here. Hold on, because I believe it's this one right here, according to my crudely drawn diagram. Should be the one closest to, there should be a lug or something down there. Let's see. So yeah, there's a lug right next to it. So the red wire sends a lock signal from a ground. So if I ground that, it should lock everything. Okay, so I have my multimeter set to ohm, so there's a there's a small connection between leads for current to flow, and I have that hooked to a ground, and then this red wire goes to the lock output on this knob, but the knob, or that's disconnected, so when I tap it, you can hear that it's locking. So if I unlock that, tap it, it locks. So then there's the purple wire. So we're going to come into the purple wire here. And we're going to do the same thing. And it's not giving me anything. That's weird. When I tap the brown wire, it activates a relay for some reason. So I'll look into that. Okay, so I may have found the problem. I'm getting about 2.5 ohms on the ground pin of the switch. It's the black wire. The other end is hooked up here, and it doesn't seem to change much if I wiggle it. So back on the safety pin. Back on the safety pin. Oh, I can't see that. Once I stick my head in. So 2.9. And adjusting this ground doesn't seem to make it better. If I take it off, obviously it goes high. So just hooked it back up. 3 ohms. So it's probably not enough to cause a problem all the time. Okay, so we have a ground back hooked up to the black lead. Then we have coming down from there is all the wiring from the door. I'm going to make an assumption that this small black wire is the one coming out of the door lock. I'm trying to get a ohm reading between the two. So once again, getting about 2 ohms of resistance between this connector and actual ground. So I guess I should make sure that my meter's functioning properly. So it's reading 0 to the same ground. So way up there, I think it's the ground for everything. So I'm against that ground. Once again, 0. And if you've noticed it, I keep getting this weird beep. I don't know what that's about either. So we're unplugging this connector. And this would really explain why the window switch seems to affect it the worst. But so we're in the connector on the ground pin, trying to hold it steady. We're still at about 2.5 ohms. So let's plug some stuff back in. I'm gonna plug this part of it back in. So you heard everything activate. Oh, it doesn't want to lock, probably because the door is open. So we got our pin in between again, but we're still getting 2.5 ohms. And I just pulled that. So my theory is if I come in here and hook up a proper ground, it won't do that. But I'm wrong. So I'm getting about 2.2 ohms over 1 ohm. I know that can be because things are hooked up, but we're getting like 1.5 ohms here. But if I put it directly on the metal up there, alright, so if I put it directly on the metal, we're at like 0.2 ohms. So there's something weird going on there. I'm not even sure if that's our ground. If I reach up here with my alligator clip and clip that up there. Nelly. So now there should be at least a somewhat decent ground. Oh, still doing that. I don't think it's between here and there. I mean, it definitely could be, but I'm gonna have to think on this more. Okay, sorry for the nighttime footage, but I just got back from work. So I pulled the pin out of this connector for the auto lock. I'm gonna put that wire through this plastic over here so I can't touch anything metal. Then we're gonna plug the connector back in. I don't know if that red pin will stay. I'm gonna plug that back in and we'll be back. Okay, so I have the red wire out of the latch connector, and I have the 30 amp fuse for the locks back in. Theoretically, if I were to touch this to any metal, it should lock the doors. So I'm not actually sure if this is interesting. I'm recording it so I have it for later. But if I put resistance between the red wire, oh come on, it reads 0 ohms, so that's straight to ground, which I find interesting. It seems like there'd be some kind of resistance. If I switch to voltage, it says that there's 11 volts between them. That might just be because everything's connected. But there's 11.37 volts between there and ground. So the switch will lock it, unlock it. So, see, we got 11.34 volts. And if I hit this window switch, it goes down to 11 volts. So the car says that it's about 12 volts. So right now it is not acting up. So I also want to test So the remote will lock and unlock it. The button will lock it and unlock it. The switch will I can hear when I hit the switch, it does activate a relay. But it will not unlock all the door. Hold on. So it activates relay, but it won't unlock the doors. And the car. Okay. So the car seems to know that this is in the locked position, which makes sense. See, security off, security on. So that's interesting. Okay, let's see if the key will lock it. Oh God. Will you shut up? Okay, so I just set off my car alarm. So I can unlock the car. So it is letting me lock and unlock the car with the key. But this activates a relay, but it doesn't actually do anything. And well, maybe I need the key on for that to act up. So right now, nothing is acting up. So this button still unlocks that. So far I haven't heard a single screwed up lock. So I've had this unplugged and it did not activate the locks at all. This is a ground wire and that red wire activates it. This was plugged in for a long drive. So I'm pretty sure whatever's going on is going on in the, it would be the knob switch. So I guess the next step is to disassemble that. So now plug back in with the red wire back attached. So that's interesting. Maybe it's alright. So everything's unlocked. That locks everything. Yep, that was a double lock. Yeah, I'm also hearing some screaming under the dash again. back. So that red wire, just disconnecting that red wire does make a difference. So I'm gonna remove the black wire from that connector and see if it'll still do it. So the black wire is removed from that plug. I've already heard it try. So that locks. So the switch, this switch isn't currently doing anything. I heard it pretty positive. I heard its shenanigans once. Maybe I was just imagining it. It doesn't seem to be doing it. So it's pretty consistent. Sometimes when you close the door, see how it just double locked when I close the door? I don't think that's normal. Apparently it is. So trying to unlock it. Yeah, so when I closed the door, it attempted to unlock it twice. Which, that might be normal function. So you can't lock your keys in your car. That might actually be the function, because the key was in the ignition. So if I do the same thing, okay, so it's because the key was in the ignition. Okay, so with that black wire removed, that doesn't work, and the key switch also shouldn't work. Still locks and unlocks as expected. So, as you can see, none of the windows seem to be causing it. We're going to throw that black wire back in and see if it's still acting up. So the black wire's back into the connector. And generally you plug it in and it'll do one lock. If you can get it plugged in. There we go. Just did it one lock. So already starting its shenanigans. I think it did it once. There we go. goes. Okay, so it's something on that switch. Okay, so I did a little research on this, and it looks like the easiest thing to do would be to order a new door latch assembly from Amazon. At the time of this, they're about $60. Because there's probably a switch pad inside the actuator assembly. But because this is an older car, and it's like the least important thing that this locks and unlocks the door to me, since the switch still works, and the door, the key lock still works. So literally it's just disabling this properly working to send a door lock signal. My solution is I am going to just remove this red wire from the connector permanently. I'll wrap it in electrical tape and stuff it back into the door. So here we go. So this is going to be the door lock test. It just double locked. No, that was a triple lock. So even rolling up the windows. But anyway, I just wanted to show you it's still malfunctioning. So to remove this trim piece, you kind of grab near the back edge and you work your way across the top, and then the front will come off and the back will slide out. You have a tab back there. So then back there's a connector. The tab on this side of it. I found if you press the tab with your index finger and kind of wiggle it out gently with the wires, that's the easiest way to remove that. So as far as removing pins from the connector, like I said, I'm going to remove the red wire. The black wire is used by the key cylinder to lock and unlock, so the red will only affect the switch, this switch. There's an arm that reaches over and activates a switch somewhere behind the sticky interior door cover that I don't want to go through all the effort to remove. So this connector, there's probably a better way to do this, but you pry on the out. So with the connector, you pry open the sides. This is just a safety pin. You need something fairly small. Not for this part. You can just use a regular screwdriver for this part. But you just kind of pry out on the sides, and it disengages some tabs on the side, and then it gets it to the semi-open position. See how the back of that connector is open, and the red wire is the second wire in on the top, and down inside of these holes there's these white little tabs, and you just kind of pry up on them because they're just like kind of like a zip tie tab. And once you pry up on it, you might need to, so I'll get the red wire by itself so I can hold on to it, but you push the wire in to relieve any tension on it, and then you pry up on that. In fact, I think you can just stick your safety pin in there to keep it open. Like I said, it's a lot like a zip tie tab. Then you just gently pull out and you pull that out of the connector. And then I'll pry back down in case I ever reinstall that. So it probably doesn't matter too much, but if this touches any grounding source in here, it'll lock your doors. That's just how the wiring diagram works. So I'm just gonna cover it with a layer of electrical tape so that doesn't happen, but I'm not irreversibly doing anything to this connector. So if I ever wanted to replace the actuator, it's hooked to the door lock, it's hooked to the door latch in the outdoor lock. You have to pull the key cylinder out and replace it. I was having trouble getting this screw out. I don't have my impact screwdriver with me. I'm not at the shop. But you have to remove that whole assembly. You have to remove the door panel. You have to remove the inner panel. Sometimes you have to remove the window. I doubt you would for this job, but I don't know. But anyway, so now this wire is removed. You come back in and you just line the plug up. You probably can't see it, but you line the plug up in the hole and you slide it back in. So then this wire just tucks back in. Like I said, it should just hang out in there. Then this panel will go in here and it just snaps into place. So at this point, my if I jump something. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so that's unlocked. Oh, that explains it. Oh, you close your gate. So at this point, your remote will work. I say it will. Doesn't want to unlock. Okay. At this point, your door locks should all work. So you got that switch. You got the remote. But this will not lock and unlock your doors anymore. can hear that it's activating a relay under the dash, but it's not actually unlocking the door because I think it can't tell whether this is locked or unlocked. And then you still have, I'm not sure if you can see it, so the doors are all locked, driver door is unlocked, all doors unlocked. So the only thing that doesn't work is this. So I feel like that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. The other solution to this problem is to remove the door latch assembly from the door, which is the white part you see in the background. That's going to require you to remove the door panel and the plastic inside the door panel. There are other videos on YouTube that show people replacing their door latch assembly to fix this problem. But the no parts method would be to remove the micro switch shown in the middle on the blue plug assembly. You'd remove that and you'd open it up and you'd clean the little contacts on it. I personally don't think that is a good alternative. If it was a newer car, I'd probably just buy the assembly, but in my situation and most people's situation, I think they would be perfectly happy just removing that red wire. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps.